Every time I get a Zalos watch in the hand, I've come to expect a certain level of quality finish, certain build tolerance. It's just a brand that seems to have certain things in place and they get it right, time after time, no pun intended. Now, that said, the designs are out there sometimes, and for me I always try to look for something a little bit more balanced and appealing to my eyes. I think the burnt orange fume dial of this black tip, it seems to draw its tonal range from the 70s. Now, to many, including myself, that's an instant draw card. However, I also feel that regardless of any faults or flaws that I might find on this watch, the fact of the matter remains, these watches seem to always sell out, and that's because of the limited number of watches they release in each colorway. And that's a shame. It's like this brand has a cult following. And if you don't believe me, check out the secondary market and the highly inflated prices this brand is fetching. Nonetheless, I have this 2023 black tip in my hands, and I do have a few niggles which I'd like to address, so let's check it out. Now, there's so many good things to say about the quality of watch that Zalos seems to churn out year in, year out. And this black tip has been a pleasure to wear and use. It actually feels good, if that makes sense. Now, people often ask, what's the difference between a well-made watch and a cheap one? And I always say, the first telltale sign is when you experience the watch in the hand. The way the crown seats and screws down, the tolerances of that bezel or even that bracelet, the fit, the finish. And this particular watch, being a grade 2 titanium case and bracelet with a 1200 Vickers hardness coating, they've hit it out of the park. It's good, in fact it's very good. But regardless of that, I think this could actually be a little bit better if they change one or two little things. Now, you saw the pop-up, Zalos has sponsored this video. This watch has been sent out without the need for it to be returned, so I will of course leave all the links in the description section so you guys can check them out. And if a watch like this does indeed interest you, I wish you all the best on getting on that shortlist to grab one. I mean it. I don't know how many times I read messages of genuine buyers who want a watch and simply cannot get one because the way the selling format is set up. And that's a shame. Nonetheless, let's get on to the specs and then I'll share my gripes throughout the week on the wrist. Now, it's a 41mm watch sporting a 12.8mm case height, even though the stated specs say 12mm. I measure 12.8. The crown comes in at 7mm, it is a signed, loomed, screw-down crown, it's one of the heroes of this watch. And lastly, the weight comes in at 128 grams, sized to my 18cm wrist on that bracelet. The overhead shows that the watch is sitting lovely on my wrist. There's no overhang from that 47.4mm lug-to-lug. The height, 12.8mm to the top of that dome sapphire crystal, albeit the bezel looks a little bit tall. And the comfort on this H-link bracelet has been superb, especially with the on-the-fly adjustment clasp. Now, speaking of that bracelet, I think this is an area which Zalos gets right, and this is superb. The articulation is beautiful, the integration is great, you got quick release end links, screw pins, a fully milled swivel and clasp. As you can see, you got twin triggers and the quality finish is great. You've also got that on-the-fly adjustment, so throughout the day as your wrist expands and contracts, you can adjust this watch. And this has been a pleasure on the wrist. The fact that we've got grade 2 titanium case and bracelet, like I said, with the 1200 hardness coating, the finishing hasn't suffered. A lot of micro brands are doing that these days, offering hardness coating on their watches, which I think gives them a huge advantage over major brands when it comes to wear and tear. Lastly, that bracelet does offer a small taper from 20mm down to 17.8. Now, if I turn my attention to the crystal of this watch, it's a double dome sapphire, it offers anti-reflective coating, and for me, it's been very good throughout the week, albeit I reckon a flat sapphire crystal would have done just as good a job here, but they've opted for double dome. It's clean, it's clear, so no real issues there. Now, a friend of mine asked me about watches. When they come in, what do? You check out the specs? I said, no, I actually put them on the wrist and I wear them for a week, and then at the end of the week, I look at the specs to see what I was actually wearing. And I do that for a reason. And with this particular watch, I wore it for the week, and using it, winding it, and that movement, I could have sworn that this was a Swiss movement because the latch down experience, the winding experience is so smooth. And usually with a Miyota, because we've got a Miyota 9015 in this, and usually with a Miyota I find a little bit more harshness. This is buttery smooth, which seriously surprised me. So the winding is great, the latchdown experience is wonderful. So that's what I was saying about a well-made watch, and I think this is why companies like Zelos have a cult following, because they're just made well. Now the styling might not be to everyone's cup of tea, I get that, but a very well-made watch, yeah, it's very hard to fault. And speaking of that movement on the time grapher, this thing's been running flatline with 0 beat error. So to me, that indicates that this watch is very well regulated. Now if I turn my attention to that bezel, as you can see, it's all blackened out with raised markers and the lume pip at the 12. And the action for a titanium bezel is excellent. It is very loud, there's no back play. It is spring loaded, but there's definitely no back play. Great sound, and it lines up perfectly. Albeit the knurling on that bezel would have been nice to be a bit more pronounced. And lastly, before I get onto my gripes, the lume. And the watch features 2 types of lume. You've got C3 as well as BGW9. It's doing a very good job. It's a clean, legible experience. That green lume seems to shine very bright and last very long. So for a dive style watch, you're not going to have any issues. And on that note, what are my niggles or gripes of this watch? And firstly, number 1, the elephant in the room. It's limited and it's going to sell out. And unfortunately, nothing's changed here. By the time this review goes live, not too long after, people are going to be struggling to get online to get these. It's been a gripe from the beginning for me because I do like the brand, I do like their watches, I think they're exceptionally made, but so many other people like that as well, and they know that for a reason. So when people get on, the website gets inundated and soon after they're all gone. Now, second gripe of this watch is the knurling on that bezel. I don't think it matches up to the knurling on that crown, because that crown is phenomenal. It's the hero of this watch. It's so wonderful to use. However, that knurling, it's the same type of knurling, but I just feel it could have been a little bit deeper, a little bit more pronounced, or alternatively, and the reason I say this is because if you look at the top of that bezel, it's smooth on the top and the knurling's on the side. So when I grab the bezel, I grab the smooth side. I really have to go sideways to try to grab it, to grab any sort of grip on this thing. So the top of it is actually smooth. So what I think, that could have potentially got the knurling to go up and onto the top. It just would have made it more grippy and married up closer to that crown. And third gripe, again, speaking of that bezel, as you can see, it seems to sit high. It's with all their black tip 41 models. It seems to be raised from the actual case. It's got the visual illusion of making the watch look taller, more proud on the wrist, where it still only comes in at 12.8mm. So I think optically, if that was lowered somehow, it would have made the watch look more refined. Now, is it a deal breaker? Well, not at all. But just putting it out there, because that's been my observation of this particular watch, how it sits on my wrist. And that's pretty much it, guys, because it's really hard to find technical faults on this watch. The fact that you got drilled lugs as well as quick release end links on this watch, it's a real easy experience to use. You got the on the fly adjustment, you got the hardness coating, everything works and it works really, really well. And the only other thing is pretty much styling. Some people might love this sort of style, some might not. It comes down to personal choices. But if history is correct, looking at their sales on their website, these things fly out the door. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I wanted to share my take on this Zelos 41mm black tip. Maybe one more potential gripe. That hour hand would have been nice to be a little bit thicker, a little bit broader, just to differentiate. And that's pretty much it. Because in usage, throughout the week, on the wrist, in its feel, in its tolerances, the watch has been great. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you think of this particular watch. It's an orange, a burnt orange fume dial. And being summer here in Melbourne, I've enjoyed it as it's been very fun and very practical. So if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. I encourage you guys to hit that like and subscribe button, as it really does help this channel to grow. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.